Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Actors Room. I am Amy Swartz, Preservation and Programs Director with Historic St. John's Church. And today I am so pleased to be speaking with our casting director, actor, tailor extraordinaire, Charles Wissinger. Welcome, Charles.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Because I had this long intro with all of your duties with us and responsibilities, can you tell us first how long you've been with the cast and what your responsibilities are?
Well, let's see. As best as I can remember, I think I've been here for about 16, maybe 17 years.
Okay. And
Yeah.
how did you first get involved?
Well, I was doing a show with Kevin Grants, and he was the stage manager as well as an actor in the show. And he approached me and asked me if I ever thought about working at St. John's Church. And I, at that point, knew nothing about this. And
Wow.
he said, I would love to have you. I asked him when the auditions are, and he said, let me just give you the script, and when you're ready, we'll throw you in.
Wow.
So
And I'm sure that was a week later and you were in the
it
show.
was, I want to say at least 2 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
But he told me when I was going to be cast and didn't really wait for me to say I was ready. So
Gotcha. Okay. And what is your background, your training?
well, I actually have a BA in theatrical and performing arts from Ferrum College,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been working professionally since '96.
Okay. Wonderful. And you've been on the big and small screen. Correct me if
Yes.
I'm wrong. Okay. And what are some of the productions that you've and on the stage as well? Tell us some of the productions that you've been in that we might be familiar with.
Well, I've done a lot of main stage in town, in Richmond, in Colonial Heights. I even went up to Michigan to be at a theater up there for an entire summer.
Oh, wow.
With Ferrum College, I did their summer stock theater for 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
working as their scenic artist as well as an actor.
Oh, okay. Very
Some
cool.
of the other things that I've done, like you mentioned, I've been in movies, commercials, TV shows, industrials, commercials,
Mm-hmm.
which I've said twice. Uh, so yeah, I am SAG, so I am
Mm-hmm.
in the Screen Actors Guild.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And you are, as I mentioned earlier, also our casting director.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what that entails.
Well, like I try to tell people that I do not hire and fire people. I will be there at the auditions to give my recommendations, but it's up to the foundation. It's up to you ladies, both the Sarahs and you, Amy, to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that we hire the people that we all can agree on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I take the existing group, and whenever you guys tell me we have a show, I fill in the blank and make sure that we have a cast that will show up on that day.
Right. But also you are, responsible for being sure that all the actors, are familiar with certain roles so that you know who to put where,
Sure.
basically.
And I do rely on some of the veterans, Jerry and Chris Dunn, Jerry Natari,
Mm-hmm.
to bounce ideas, to give feedback, and to kind of figure out where we're going with it to keep the show the same. And from my communications with both you and Sarah Whiting, trying to keep the show consistent based off what you guys want, so that even if it's a different cast or if you've got an actor that's playing multiple roles, the roles that he is playing for that day are as consistent as we can make it for every show that's out there, so everybody's getting the same
Right.
show.
Right. Right. And when you are acting for us, what roles do you play?
Well, since I've been doing this, we used to have a 10-person cast, and I played 9 out of the 10 characters.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we've gone down to a 9-person cast, I can honestly say I've played 8 out of the 9 characters.
Okay. Who haven't you played then?
George Washington. I'm too short.
Okay. Okay.
I'm way too
All right.
short. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so I've interviewed several of the other guys, and what I've definitely found that common theme is what a collaborative cast you are, which, you know, I really love. That really comes through as, you know, working together and just bouncing off each other and being supportive. Um, can you tell me any memorable shows that you may have been involved in, and what those entailed?
Memorable shows in the years that I've done it. I think the naturalization ceremony, the very first one that we did, I was there for that. So that was kind of an honor to be there for all that.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a number of the public shows as well as the anniversary shows. Those are always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the others would include like special shows for the SAR or the DAR, when you've got groups that are very interested and
Right.
almost as excited as we are to do the show for them.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Um, and so circling back to a little bit about what I mentioned at the very beginning,
Sure.
and I'm excited to learn more about your tailoring. How do I say that?
That was an accident.
Okay.
Let's see. So
Just a little bit, because we are going to do another interview with you on this, but how did you get involved with that? Since you
it
do it all.
boils down to Kevin, who saw one of the items that I put together, and he said, you know, with practice, and if I give you a period correct pattern, you could probably get better at this. And
Oh
so
my
that's the
gosh.
short story, but I'll give you more in depth the next time we talk about it.
That's amazing. Okay. That's very cool. That's very cool. Are you from this area originally?
I wasn't born in Virginia. No, I was born in North Carolina, and at about 3 years old, it was only a couple of years of living there. My family moved up to Virginia, and I actually grew up in Chesterfield, not
Okay.
far from Richmond, but it's on the south side of Chesterfield.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So out of all the delegates that you do play, who is your favorite and why?
Well, that's that's a hard one because I do like them all. I think some of my favorites, and I will say some, Harrison, Nicholas, and Lee are probably in my top three. They are vastly different, but you get to, when you play those roles, you get to play around with it a little bit more. You've got Lee that's
Right.
very energetic. He's the one that pushes, you know, for fighting the first time, and I think that gives um, the green light for Patrick Henry to move forward with. All right, let's go for it.
Right.
The way
Absolutely.
the show's designed, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Very cool. Is there anything that you want to share with us that I haven't covered this afternoon?
Well, I actually saw two of the videos that you posted, and I love the question about the bloopers.
Please. Love to hear a
And
blooper.
I would love to share this with you because I know I've shared it with several of the cast members. I just don't know if you've ever heard this one yet.
Okay.
Um, so, as you know, when we do this, sometimes people forget that they have a show, or maybe they have car problems, or maybe something unforeseen happens and they just don't make it to a show.
Sure.
Well, the guys that are there, we get together, and especially if we have somebody like myself, Jerry, or Chris in charge, we
Mm-hmm.
try to figure out who has played what part before, and then which part can we cut just to make this show continue.
Right.
And we almost always try to cut Nelson first if everyone else in the show has actually played other parts.
Sure.
So we might have to move people around. Uh, this one particular day that comes to my mind is a day that this very same thing happened, and we got this call, wasn't going to make it for that particular show, and so we needed to figure out something on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
They came to me, and this is before I was casting. They
Okay.
came to me and asked me if I ever played Harrison before, and I said no. Then they were trying to figure out how many roles at that point I knew and could play, and I told them what I was comfortable with. Then someone else, came up to me and asked me, "Have you ever played Harrison before?" And I said no. And so we all, letting them figure it out, left the dressing room. Someone else came up to me, "Have you ever played Harrison before?" I said no. And this happened more than enough times to the point where it was almost hysterical. It was very funny at
Right.
this point.
Right.
When the bell rang, we were all walking into our seats, and I have my hand wrapped to play Lee. I'm
Hmm.
going down the right side to go to the Lee seat. Now, Harrison, for those that don't know, sits on the left side.
Right.
By the time I make it to Lee's seat, I see somebody else sitting there with his hand wrapped.
Ah!
And so, freaking out, not knowing what to do, I slowly and try to hide what I was doing by unwrapping my hand
Right.
and keeping my hands down near my pocket so that I could stuff that wrap into one of the pockets. I had to cross the entire front of the church
Mm-hmm.
looking for the open seat,
Oh, geez.
and the seat that was open was
Harrison.
Harrison. So I went to sit down, never have played that role before.
Oh my gosh.
When it was time for me to speak, I stood up. I said the beginning of the line. My mind went completely blank because I didn't know where it was going from here. I said,
Right.
"Thank you, Mr. President." And I sat back down.
And I'm sure the audience barely noticed, if they noticed at all. Of course, the cast probably was
Right.
chuckling, but
I had some of the guys looking at me and laughing and trying not to make it obvious that they were laughing. And I had other guys looking at me like, "What is wrong with you? What just happened? I've never seen you do that before." After the show was over, they pulled me aside. "What happened?" And I told them, "I've never played this part before."
right. And
"I
I
thought
told
you
each of
had."
you individually that I didn't play it.
"I thought you had." Yeah. So that
Oh
was
gosh.
probably my funniest show, as well as probably my most embarrassing show.
That's funny. Well, Charles, thank you so much for being with me today. It's a pleasure always to see you, and I'm excited to see you in person. I hope soon.
Soon.
Um, Thank you all so much for joining us today. Tune in next time for another interview with a cast member. Bye, Charles. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.